What could New York be? What could the transportation system be? And I guess how could New York be different with the transportation system that you could envision?
First of all, New York's different than any other city in the United States. Nobody has a modal split, no city has a modal split like New York. So that during the peak hours, we have 80 to 90% of the people coming into the Midtown Business District and to the downtown business district by public transportation. The nearest city to that in North America is Toronto. Mexico City is the other city.
And when you say modal split, you mean the fraction of people driving cars and using transit and things like that?
Yes, so New York City is the least dependent city in the United States on the automobile. We are very dependent on shoes in New York. We walk a good deal. That's a very dominant mode of transportation. The subway and other rail are dominant modes of transportation. But the car really accounts for very few people in total. And there's a misconception because the car uses up so much space that so many people are using it. That people are, it's so crowded. It's like the Yogi Berra thing, which in this case is very true. Yogi Berra, who said it's so crowded nobody goes there anymore. You know, it's when I looked at Canal Street and I did a study for the borough president, I found nobody goes there anymore. The traffic volume was so low, even though it's so crowded and it's filled with cars. But all we were really doing was providing seating for people in Lower Manhattan, seating so that they can look and view Chinatown, but at the same time they're polluting it. People in big trucks are humming and barreling, you know, bouncing across Canal Street and causing pollution and noise and so on.
I mean, I can tell you, my office is 3 blocks from Canal Street, and I do everything I can to avoid walking on it. It's pretty unpleasant to be near that much traffic, really.
Our policy is so dysfunctional that if you want to take your car or truck and stay on the highways, stay on the expressways, which are designed for heavy traffic, go over the Verrazano Bridge, a modern bridge, over the Staten Island Expressway, out the Goethals Bridge or the Outer Bridge crossing to New Jersey, we're going to charge you about $40 if you're in a big truck. But that same truck, if it wanted to go out the Holland Tunnel, just can travel across the Manhattan Bridge, across a creaky 100-year-old bridge, and bounce along the streets of Soho and the streets of Tribeca and Chinatown and Little Italy, exhaust fumes going into all those buildings, and go out the Holland Tunnel, and we're not going to charge them a penny. It's free.
The traffic flow in Manhattan, in some ways, there's been a brilliant engineering job managing it in terms of timing lights and things like that. But in other ways, it's congested, like you said, on Canal Street and a lot of other places all the time. It doesn't seem like a well-engineered system would be congested all the time. And
I'm encouraging city officials, and I've been encouraging the mayor and the governor to consider congestion pricing. In 1980, I actually introduced congestion pricing in New York, got it implemented as a law, and then was sued by the Garage Board of Trade and the Automobile Club. In 1980, there was a transit strike in April. It lasted 11 days. And we reduced traffic dramatically by having these occupancy restrictions on the cars coming into Manhattan. If you doubled up, every car had to have an occupancy of 2, you would have only 800,000. And if you had 3, you would only have 530,000 motor vehicles. So by doing that, increasing the occupancy, we reduced the number of motor vehicles dramatically. We were hailed as heroes. There were a lot of other elements to the plan. So the mayor said, okay, what can we do now to keep this momentum going? So by September of that year, April was the strike, by September we introduced a traffic rule saying that anybody in a driver-only car, and 60% of the cars are driver-only, must use a toll facility to come into Manhattan. The rule and regulation was written, it was law, became law, city law, and we were sued by the Garage Board of Trade and the Automobile Club. An injunction was served within weeks of the implementation, and we lost the lawsuit, and it said that the city didn't have the authority and there was no state official that was willing to step up to the plate and run with it.
So, I mean, it seems like there are solutions out there to traffic congestion and a lot of the problems in New York City. But it's not so much a lack of engineering know-how as it is a matter of political will and desire to do these things.
Yes, the solution that you'll find the people in the transportation community that are on the far right, the most conservative, and the far left agree that the best solution, the most capitalist solution, and the most socialist solution is the same solution. It's congestion pricing. Congestion pricing is pure capitalism. It says we've got a precious resource in a city, it's space, and we're going to apply the laws of supply and demand, and we're going to price that space. You want to come in during Christmas week, and you want to show your family the Christmas tree by driving down Fifth Avenue in your SUV and look over at that tree and point it out. And I've measured those speeds on Fifth Avenue during Christmas. They're about 1 mile an hour, and sometimes lower than that. You are polluting a lot of air, you're consuming a lot of space, you're using a lot of energy. We're going to allow you. But maybe it'll cost you $50 to show the tree to your kids during that time. So apply the rules of supply and demand is very capitalist approach, and you get something for your money. On the other hand, the socialists, the people more on the left wing, they say this is wonderful. We're going to be pricing people because they are consuming space, they are polluting more, they are using more energy, and we're going to take the money from that as part of the plan and put it into public transportation, where there is a market skew between the income of the people in the subways and the income of the people in the cars. A study by Charlie Kamenoff a few years ago found a $14,000 difference in income. The people in their cars are making $14,000 more than the people in the subway. So this is very socialistic. We're going to move some wealth from the wealthy to the less wealthy, and the air will be better, the rich will move faster, the poor will move better. It's a win-win all around, but there isn't a politician ready to step up to the plate.
So why, if it's so good, if it's good for people who are driving because they move faster, if it's good for people on public transit, if it's not making a horribly inefficient use of scarce space, why don't people do it? Why isn't this such a no-brainer?
It's the reaction of the public is instant, and the media feeds into that. They use the word tax, they use the word toll. In the United States, tax, toll, it's anathema. It's a killer for an election. So we have to be smarter than a soundbite. We have to have politicians that can go beyond the soundbite. Ken Livingstone in London, the first Western nation to take it on, although Ed Koch did propose it when I was with him. But Ken Livingstone proposed this in early 2003, it's implemented in February, and by the middle of 2004, there's an election. Ken Livingstone is reelected.
One of the things you can do if you're looking to regulate the amount of traffic is you can regulate parking, because if people can't park, a lot of them aren't going to drive.
That's true. But there is a percentage that are always going to drive. I mean, we have to recognize that there are places that the car is going to be used.
Well, I guess
minimize
Midtown Manhattan is different than LA or some other place where you don't, I mean, in New York City, you have such good public transportation. And certainly there are some people who are coming from places without public transportation to places without, that if you're saying your drive's going to go from 45 minutes to 2.5 hours to get there, well, those people aren't. But there's a lot of people kind of right on the cusp, it seems.
Transportation professionals call them choice riders. Those are the ones that we should go after, the people that do have a choice. So in my proposal for congestion pricing, for example, in New York City, to make it palatable to Brooklyn, Queens, and other places, I would give Brooklyn, Queens drivers something. So it's not totally viewed as anti-car, and it's us versus them. I would congestion price the entire central business district. I would do it temporarily, and I would do it seasonally and day of week and whatever. But I would remove the tolls from the Rockaways, for example. I would remove the tolls that you don't have two ingredients you need for congestion pricing. One is congestion, and the other one is good transit. Mm-hmm. And only the central business district of Manhattan and maybe downtown Brooklyn and maybe Long Island City have decent public transportation, where I would say we really could apply the rules of congestion pricing.